This is Brian Margolis, and welcome to the Simplify Your Strategy, Magnify Your Results podcast, where on each episode I use the pillar system to help a sales pro, entrepreneur, or other results-based professional create a weekly strategy to run a simple, more lucrative business. A strategy so simple it can fit on an index card, but so powerful it's actually helped create multiple seven-figure earners and is now licensed by some of the largest companies in the world to create strategies for their teams. If you'd like a free copy of my book on exactly how to do this, or want to be considered as a guest on a future episode, head on over to productivitygiant.com. Enjoy the episode. We're live or recorded or however we're thinking about this. So, all right, Aaron, you've had some time.
Yes.
Had some time. Full honesty, right? Okay. So what I want to do real quickly is just run down the pillars that we came up with, make sure I understand what they are, and then you can update me on any changes you've made or thought about making, and then more importantly, how well you've been doing in terms of hitting them or not hitting them.
Okay.
So what we came up with last time was to publish 2 videos a week. Everything's obviously a week. Publish 2 videos. You were going to send 10 and 3 prospecting emails, meaning 10 cold, 3 to warm connections.
Yep.
You were going to spend 3 hours practicing and developing your talk. You were going to spend 90 minutes on learning about marketing, just marketing research, learning different ways to market. And you were going to do 3 30-minute workouts.
Yes.
Correct, based on when we stopped talking last?
Yep. Those are them.
All right. So since I don't know exactly how long it's been what, 5 weeks or so, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Talk maybe 6. So do you still have the same pillars? Let's start there.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good thing, I think.
Yes.
You,
Well,
you feel like we've identified the right pillars.
yes, as I've been, well, perhaps we should talk about the progress in them and then why I realized that they continue to be the right pillars, because some were more successful than others.
Okay.
However, I will say that in doing like the marketing research and a few other things that came into play, I feel like I'm more prepared and equipped to do the ones that perhaps I haven't been doing as well. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Like doing the marketing stuff, I realize like I'm much more clear on who I'm trying to target and the different types of people I'm trying to target. And I know when we spoke the first time, that was kind of like I was a little bit vague about that.
Mm-hmm.
So in discovering that, I've now learned, like now I have more thoughts and a more strategic approach of how to do those emails and how to do the videos. So I feel like it's all, and I guess this is probably the point, right? It's all kind of coming together, and I'm much more focused and clear about what it is that I'm trying to do, because
Yeah.
before I feel like it was just spaghetti on a wall, you know?
Yeah. Clarity is difficult.
Yeah. To be clear, I am not there yet, my friend, but I feel like much, I feel like much more clear than I was the last time we talked. But
At
yeah, it's
at minimum, I hope you're just asking better questions
yeah,
of, like, even if you don't get it right yet, you're still just because I'm still in that phase. I don't think I'll ever get out of it where I'm constantly looking for more clarity, simpler ways to do things. What can I eliminate? Do I really need to be doing all this, all that kind of stuff? But I don't want to go off on a tangent there. So what I'm hearing is you have not been hitting all your pillars consistently, right?
right.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like one of the reasons might be that you really, at least like when it came to the videos and the prospecting emails, you weren't even sure, excuse me, what to actually do.
Right.
And so you weren't hitting those pillars, not because you didn't have time, or not because you were procrastinating, or maybe that was part of it, but more because you felt like you would just be doing it to do it. These weren't the right, you didn't have clarity.
Yes, I think that's fair. I mean, I think the other thing is too, and I want to bring this up because I think it's also the reality of the situation. You know, one week I was away with my family, and then 2 weeks ago I was at the National Speakers Association conference, which was actually that was interesting, and I feel like my pillars helped guide me through that conference. Because I can, it's a lot of, it's like a 5 day conference. It's a lot of information and a lot of people and a lot of I don't want to say distractions, but this is my third year going, and I would say I was more focused this year and less overwhelmed. The only thing I paid attention, like the only breakouts I went to were sales, like, because like that's clearly my biggest area for growth. And
I
so
love it.
I was really just, and like one session I went to was about online courses, which I thought might be, but halfway through, I'm like, this is way beyond where I am right now. And I just tuned out in the best possible way. So I feel like kind of, I don't know if it's like a side or a side consequence of this is saying, and just what you said, the questions I'm asking myself, like, what am I really trying to do here? What is going to be getting me in front of people? And that, like, that breakout as an example, I'm like, this is not what I need to be doing right now, so I'm just going to shut it out. So I have found even my way of thinking is much more like, turn off the noise. I don't need to hear this right now. This is not part of what I'm trying to do. And I think that's a balance, Brian, right? Of like trying to get the information. And you said this too about like the marketing guys and gals. Like some of it you're going to be like, whatever, this is not for me. But I think I just feel like, to your point about clarity, I feel like I'm saying, nope, that's not for me. It doesn't matter right now. Nope, this is how I'm going to do it. Like, that's good information. And the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. So I feel like my work is getting more focused again than just like, I'm going to talk about this random shit today because it's what I want to talk about. But who am I actually talking to? Why am I going to talk about that? Yeah. So having said that, now,
Yeah, no, I mean, but what you're saying, this is good. I mean, this is the
yeah.
start. This is the start of a sea change.
Mhm.
What you're describing to me is honestly, it's a point a lot of people I work with, or I shouldn't say I work with, but a lot of people that I talk to never get to. Meaning, they constantly change directions. They go to a seminar, okay, I'm going to do it this way, or social media, they feel like they have to be on every platform and all that kind of stuff. And they never even ask why. It's just kind of like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should have a blog, I should, blah, 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 right?
Right.
And it's not that all, look, there's a lot of ways that you could grow your business.
Yeah.
There's almost too many ways that
Hmm.
you could grow your business. And that's why you have to make some decisions. You need to think through and, you know, again, it's not, the question is never, will it have a positive impact? Could I get a customer from it? The question is always, is it the best use of my time?
Right.
And like for me, I did an analysis on one part of my business not too long ago and realized that I'm at the point in that business where 80% of my new clients or my new work, my new consulting, whatever, is coming from like just a handful of not customers, but what I call like connectors, meaning I can trace almost 80% of the business back to a few advocates I have, right? Who have put people in front of me and led me to this and led me to that. And so why that cleared things up for me is I'm at the point in that business where I'm like, okay, I don't need to be doing a lot of cold outreach anymore. It's not that cold outreach, again, couldn't help me, but in terms of the best use of my time, nurturing and engaging my existing clients and audience and asking for referrals and facilitating those is just such a better return on investment for me.
Right.
And that's hard because I like the creativity of marketing sometimes, right? And asking for referrals and things like that isn't always the most creative, you know,
Right.
thing in the world. Okay, so So you're starting to have some clarity. You're starting to say no to things, which is great. And that's always my fear is when I give someone a pillar or we come up with a pillar of, marketing learning, right? Is that they'll every time they read something new or see something, they'll run down that hole. And, you know, and I may have even said this the last time we talked, to kind of explore a lot, commit to a little, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a look at it. There's even a school of thought, and they call it like 1-1-1-1-1 or something. I think I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, that his Clay, who started leadpages .net or .com, and it was kind of like, okay, one audience type, right? One audience type, one platform or whatever it was for. I'll have to look it up, but it was do one of everything, and then it ends in 1 year, right? Like just get one thing going, right? One way of marketing to one audience type, one product, right? Basically sell one package, for 1 year or something. Okay. So as far as hitting your pillars, did you struggle ever because you felt like you didn't have the time, you ran out of time?
I don't know that I ran out of time. I think that this is one of my biggest challenges, and what I'm really trying to focus on is doing a better job of scheduling my time. And I think like I feel like sometimes all I want is a routine, and all I need to realize is that I'm never gonna have a routine. And when I say never gonna have a routine, just because of like my travel schedule, or my days aren't. It's not, like when you work for yourself, or like you're a solo, it's not like you go to the office and you clock out. So I'm trying to do I'm working on scheduling my days in advance, which I know, I mean, that's kind of part of the whole pillar system. So
Right.
I'm really trying to say, I'm trying to work on that. So I don't know that it's ran out of time. I think I didn't do a good job of organizing my time. There's
Okay.
there's not
Okay,
a
but
self-assessment right there.
no. And by the way, congrats, you're human, right?
Yeah. I
We're
mean,
not. 8 out of 10 of my clients at some point tell me they have ADD, and I'm like, no, you don't. You're human, right?
right. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I know there's medical stuff. I'm not talking about that, but the okay. So there's a couple of ways that I'm thinking right now when you say that, but one of them is I think you need to look at it a little differently, in that because you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself, you actually control your schedule way more than you think you do,
That's true.
right?
That's true. Yep.
Based on what you say yes to and what you say no to. And so my fear with someone who says that, and I don't know that this is the case with you, but my fear is that when you say, and I could be wrong, but you say schedule your day, are you thinking like, okay, from 2 to 3 I'm doing this, from 11 to 1 I'm doing that?
No, more like the day before, say these, not so much like by the hour, but more
Okay,
just
so you're
like
saying plan your day, not
plan.
schedule.
Yeah, a
Like
plan.
here's my priorities in the order I want to do them.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's the system I teach.
Right.
So here's there's a couple of things you want to do. Now, to me, for when you say you travel a lot, give me a lot. Like, does it happen in bunches? Does it?
Yeah, like next week I'm gone Wednesday through Saturday. I'm home the week after. Well, I'm gone for 2 days the week after. The week after that, I'm gone Wednesday through Saturday.
Mhm.
So it's pretty much at least 2 weeks out of the month I'm on the road.
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. One way, like my system, as you read in the book, is, and I travel, a lot at certain times. I mean, over
Right.
the next 5 weeks, I'm going to be in 7 different places.
Yeah.
So I'm doing like 7 cities, so to speak, in 5 weeks, right? Um, but my system has always been 7 to 10. Not always, but for many many years now. From 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, that is my pro time. right? Meaning my proactive stuff gets done from 7 to 10. That's when I work on my pillars. That's when I work on proactive things. And then from 10 o'clock on, that's when I'll schedule phone calls and things like that. I mean, it's not an accident that we're talking at 10 a.m., right?
Right.
Even though I've been up since 6 a.m. So one way to do it is to own your mornings, right? You don't have to have a routine where every day you do the same thing, but I think it's critical that you control the first part of your day.
Okay.
Okay. Now, even when you travel, okay, and again, I don't know what you're actually doing when you travel, but can you have a few hours in the hotel room in the morning, or do the kind of things you do tend to start really early?
It depends on the project. I mean, like next week, my session starts at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's a 24-hour distribution center. So, but what's interesting about that is that so I do two 4-hour sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the time in between, but then I mean, and this is the balance too, right? Like
That's
really,
not. There's no mental energy for that.
right. Like I'm like, and I try to do stuff, and I'm like, no, Aaron, you've been teaching for 8 hours. Like, go
No.
stare at a wall or like read a book. So some of those days, depending like on that type of project, yeah, there's no mental energy left. But there's definitely, I would say, for the most part, again, depending on the project, like if I'm going to do a keynote, if I'm going to do like a less intensive. If I'm doing a training, I would say pretty much that day I don't have a lot of bandwidth left.
Sure.
But like keynote days, yeah, like there's definitely maybe not the full 3 hours, but there's definitely time in the day to get stuff done.
Right. Okay. But I don't want to. We don't want to count on time in the day. We want to schedule and protect. Right.
Okay.
And that's the key. So to me, could like for example, if you look out for the rest of the year, okay,
Mm-hmm.
could you protect Mondays? Right. Could Mondays be, pillar time, so to speak?
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
Miller time, but pillar time, right?
Right. Right. Okay.
Um,
I see what you're saying.
like the key to what I'm getting at in terms of people who need to control their schedule is you need to scheduling the time usually actually is the easiest part. It's protecting it. It's
Yeah.
not letting something else in there, right? And so one way you might want to do it is you may want to look out at your calendar and basically say, look, I need some people can't work all day either on stuff like this. And I get that, even with a lot of breaks. So, you're looking for 2 days a week. Let me ask you this. When you're at home, do you work out of your home or do you go to an office?
I work out of my home.
Okay. Is there any kids, spouses, animals to bother you?
Um, Steve the dog is here sometimes, but half the time he goes to work with my husband. So that's
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
So, all right. So, but you can get work done with Steve the dog, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Jack the dog allows me to work too.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm saying is when I look at your pillars, I look at probably 3, 4.5. I'm just looking at 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. I'm looking at about 8 hours of work.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really
what's that?
I'm laughing because I'm like, it's really not that much. I
No,
mean,
I mean, it's still but it's 8 focused hours. It's not like an 8 hour day. It's different. It's 8 hours where you're actually doing something, right?
yeah.
Um, so to me, and it could be less, depends on how you set up your videos and things like that. But to me, I'm looking like for you need 2 4-hour. Well, I'm sorry, I never got the answer to the initial question, which was, so what time when you're at the office, what time do you get started?
Um, I would say on average, I'm in here either like mostly by 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And that's after like and that would be actually like after doing my workout and after doing like my morning routine. Like I journal and I do my workouts in the morning before I get into the office. So like
That
that one
good.
part of the pillar's done, So I
Okay.
would say on average I try to get in here at 8.
Well, here's the way I would look at your week very simply then for someone like you who wants to be flexible on travel. You basically Mondays this is how I would set it up. Mondays from 8 to 12 and Tuesdays from 8 to 12. Now again, you're still going to need some other time, right?
Yeah.
You're still going to need some other time, but Mondays from 8 to 12, Tuesdays from 8 to 12 are that is pillar time and proactive time. Like that is your sacred time to get this stuff done.
Okay.
Right? And the way you look at it is you should protect that time. Okay? You should protect that time. I would put that in your calendar through 2020, right? As a standing appointment. Now, when travel gets in the way, meaning, you can protect that time. And when someone wants to talk at a certain time, you can say no.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But the stuff you can't say no to is, if a company wants to hire you and the event is Tuesday or Monday or whatever it is,
right.
It's very simple. The rule is you just move that 4-hour block. So if you're going to be traveling Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, then you just move it to Thursday and you protect it. Like as soon as you book that thing, you move that block over to Thursday.
Okay.
Right? You said Wednesday to Saturday at one point. Well, that's an easy one. Monday to Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something else here in a second that's going to make it even easier. But your standing appointment should be Monday, Tuesday. And again, you can do it how you want. You can do Monday, Wednesday, however you want to do your standing appointments. But do you see what I mean about then you just move the block if travel gets in the way?
Yep.
Okay. But then what you do is the second thing that's critical is if there's legal holidays on a Monday, which happens often, and you're going to not work on that Monday, right? For some people, like to me, there are certain holidays to me that are, I joke around, I call them fake holidays, right?
Right.
Like Labor Day to me, I love working on days like that because you get stuff done. No one expects anything from you, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm a dork in that way, but I like, and even if we have plans, I like to like work in the morning and then enjoy my afternoon, whatever it is. Okay. But if you see legal holidays coming up as you look out at the calendar and you can, figure that out, you just make sure you put it Tuesday and Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the first thing I would do. Those are 8 dedicated hours. All right. Those are 8 dedicated hours. The other thing I would do, so you have this standing block. And again, you try to keep it Monday, Tuesday, or whatever you choose. But then what you do, you have to remember is you can also control your travel schedule sometimes a little more than you think. Meaning, a lot of times we have this need to rush out and get home as quick as we can. So if something ends at 4:00, we want to be on the 6:30 flight so we can get home, right?
Yeah.
There's this kind of rush to get home. And I get it. But for me personally, and I hope you're thinking this way if you're not already doing it, obviously mental energy management is critical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's critical to this stuff. So I do pretty good at getting to bed and waking up at the same time every day.
Yep.
All right. And I don't know if you're there yet or it's something you're trying.
No, I'm good at that.
Yeah. So I will not, like for me personally, and again, I have kids, I get the need, people want to come home and all that stuff, but for me, I really avoid late flights. I would rather stay over. What I'll do is I'll stay over an extra night, get a good night's sleep, and then I'll wake up the next day in my hotel room at like 5, 6 in the morning, whatever it is. And that I'll work for a few hours because I usually book like a lunchtime flight, right?
Okay.
As opposed to getting home really late, then sleeping in a little bit and then being off the next day, right? Like being tired and because again, you don't get paid for how many hours you put in, you get paid for what you do, right?
Right.
And so just saying yes, like I do little things, like a company will ask me, actually this just happened. They're like, can you do the afternoon slot? Will that work? And I said, look, if it comes down to it and that's a deal breaker, I'll do the afternoon slot. But I'd really prefer with my travel schedule, the morning session would be way simpler for me. It would be smoother travel, all that kind of stuff. Right. And they said, all right, well, and they put me in the morning slot. So just by me not just saying yes to everything and asking up that question, right, following up, I was able to get the morning slot, if that makes sense.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we do control our schedule, not 100%, but more than we think, right?
Yes.
Then when it comes to modifying, or sorry, when it comes to, I want to talk about modifying your pillars here in a second. Then when it comes to taking appointments, regular appointments like phone calls and things like this or whatever, that time is off limits. Aaron, can you do 11? Can't do it. I can do noon.
Right.
Like, you already know in your head. And here's the thing. The amount of money you could potentially lose, and I honestly don't think you'll lose any, but people freak out about this, by saying no to an appointment where they say, oh, well, Tuesday morning's the only time I can do it. And you just saying, all right, well, can we talk next week then? And I know sometimes the eagerness is, to get someone on the phone, especially if it's a potential client. But the amount of money you will make and the growth in your business from owning and controlling your schedule versus possibly missing $1 because someone gets upset waiting a week or something happens during that week and you lose the gig, so to speak. I just think it's minimal. It's more in our mind, right?
Yeah. And
so for you, that would be the way I would be thinking. Okay.
Okay.
And again, if from noon on you need to take 78 phone calls, then so be it. Take 78 phone calls. But, from 8 to noon, you're getting after it, right? You're focused on not only your pillars, but anything proactive. Proactive being if you have to put together a talk, right? Or a thing. That's something you could do from 8 to noon, right? As part of that time.
Yep.
The other thing I want to bring up is modifying your pillars.
Okay.
So when you travel, is it normally kind of one night, 2 nights, or is there not any normalcy here?
I don't think that there is normalcy.
So especially right now when it comes to developing the habit of pillar execution, when it comes to that, it's critical that you cross these things off every week. And so if you remember in the book, it talked about modifying your pillars.
Yeah.
So you talked about what was the 1 week where you said you were gone 4 days or something?
Yeah.
Which was that a family thing or a talk or?
Oh, I was gone for a week with my family, and then I was gone for.
Okay, but that was like a personal thing, like a vacation or something, right?
Yeah, but like the conference, for example, I mean, that was like the conference was Saturday through Wednesday.
Right. So yeah. So what you do in weeks? First of all, if you're on vacation for a week or something, you don't have to have any pillars. It's a vacation week.
Yeah.
But when you got back, so you got back Wednesday, right, from the conference, Wednesday night or something?
It ended up being Wednesday night because of travel fund, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, that's always built in.
Right.
That's why I always travel the day before. I'm amazed at people who try to always fly in the morning of. I'm like, aren't you scared you're gonna? Anyway. Yeah.
That's insane. Yes.
So in theory, you worked Thursday and Friday of that week. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would have done if I was you is then modified your pillars, right? I would have just modified them and said, look, I need to send, Thursday and Friday. Here's what I have on the agenda. I already have some things. I can't get everything done. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 10 and 3 prospecting emails. I'm going to publish 1 video, and I'm going to do 90 minutes of marketing strategy or something, right? Or marketing learning. Whatever you felt was realistic, modified your pillars, and then hit those modified pillars, right? Because you get that same sense of completion, like you close that loop. Because as long as, here's the key though, and you may have read this, but you have to modify your pillars at the beginning of the week. You can't just do your best and then look back on Friday and go, well, considering it was a short week, I did pretty good. Because that loop hasn't been closed, right? Because I'm worried about you developing the habit right now. So instead of just doing your best, I want at the beginning of the week, I don't care if you knock it down to 2 pillars. I want you to modify it, say, okay, these are my pillars for the week. They're down to 2, and complete those 2. Now, you can always do more if you get them done, but you're done your pillars. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have to modify them at the beginning of the week, though. You can't just look back and say, oh, I did pretty good.
Yeah, and I think something you just touched on, I still don't know that I fully felt the Friday feeling yet, like that sense of completion. So that just totally resonated by modifying them first, because then you feel like then I will feel that like that I did what I needed to do. Because I think that there's still, and I think this is probably one of the points of the pillars, right? Because there's still, I can tell I'm still fighting off that sense of overwhelm of all of the things that need to get done. So yeah, I'm curious, like as I continue to nail these down, and I wrote down protect that time, like protecting that time, I think is going to be is vital. Like obviously it's what you said, but I think having that sense of, okay, yeah, I put the work in, and now like then I think that I can see that how that can ease the sense of overwhelm of all of the other things. So I think those are 2 big opportunities.
Yeah, and then listen, the maturity as an entrepreneur is that the maturity of an entrepreneur for someone like you is that it's not, no matter what, it's not all getting done.
Right.
So you have to make a choice as to what gets done.
Yeah.
And very average people, from a professional standpoint, average people, average entrepreneurs, professionals, however you're looking at it, they give more weight to the number of things they do and cross off than they do, the importance of it, the return on investment, right? Like it feels better to a lot of people to knock 17 things off a to-do list than it does to publish 2 videos.
Yeah.
Right? But these are the things, I mean, let's be honest, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, these are the things that are going to determine how successful you are, right?
Yeah.
Your prospecting, your marketing, your practicing, your publishing of the videos, your different things, right? This is what's going to determine your success, bar none. Not whether you got all these little things and didn't let things, fall through the cracks. Now, again, going back to the book, you also need to incorporate flash hours. Okay?
Will you remind me what a flash hour is?
Yeah, or a flash hour, some people call it a power hour. So that's when a lot of little things build up, and then you literally just set you need to buy a timer, okay? Like a kitchen timer. Do not use your phone. Okay? Do not use your phone. You'll see messages coming in, you'll see calls. That is not what you want, right?
Okay.
Get a kitchen timer is the best tool I own. There's no doubt about it. So I got 3 buttons, huge numbers. I'm looking at it right now. It's at 31 minutes, right? Because if I'm working on something and I have a call like this, I will literally stop it. And then when I go back to it, I hit start again, right?
Right.
But a flash hour is, the way I look at it is you underestimate what you can get done in an hour. We all overestimate what we can get done in a day. We overestimate what we can get done in a week because it looks like there's so much time ahead of us. But we underestimate what we can get done in an hour. And so what it does is when all those little things build up, you kind of hit go and you just get after it, right?
Okay.
And it's amazing. You will look up at the clock. You'll think you've been working forever. And it's like there's 42 minutes left. And you're like knocking all these little things out. I got to email that person. I got to do this. I got to do that. And when you do this, you want to operate on airplane mode. Okay. Meaning, I don't know what program you use, but if you use like Outlook or something, whatever your email program is, Gmail, whatever, you got to turn it offline. So when you're sending your prospecting emails, for example, right, when you're working, you should not be receiving new incoming emails. You should be working offline. And then when you're done those prospecting emails, you go back online, it'll send them for you, right?
Okay.
your phone should be in do not disturb mode. Okay.
My phone is never not in do not disturb mode, to the point that sometimes people are like, "Can you answer your phone ever?" And I'm like, "No."
Good.
Okay.
Good. Then you're ahead of the game in that part, right? You're ahead of the game. Yeah, you've got to set the boundaries for that. But yeah, so that's what I mean by flash hours, right?
Okay.
By knocking those little tasks off. I'm gonna get you a video that's part of this product I'm making, um, that I made about planning your day, planning your week. It's a big file, so I got to figure out how to get it to you, but I'm gonna get it to you.
Okay. Awesome.
And it just walks through how I plan my day, how I plan my week. But you're going to want to work very methodically. When you're having a productive day, things slow down for you. You actually work with a relaxed intensity, as one of my coaches used to say. Right? It's very methodical. It's very like you work on one thing, you don't start the next thing till you're done that one. You see it through. You take breaks. You do all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
You actually do less. I mean, that's ultimately what the pillars are: focusing on less and making more money or producing more.
Yeah.
What other problems do you see in hitting your pillars? Because that's where I want to focus most of this.
I think the biggest, the one that I have been doing, like that I haven't done at all really, as I laugh at myself, is the emails. And I think that there was the uncertainty of, like, again, what am I saying to them? How am I gonna, like, and I think now, actually, I got some good thoughts from the conference last week, and even just this week, a new plan for that. So it's funny because now I have questions that I'm going to ask them, and a way to reach out for them that doesn't seem just like completely random. So there's more confidence in what I'm doing with that, and also being like, who gives a shit if none of them respond to, like, well, I mean, not who gives a shit, but like, now it seems like there's some structure to it. So when I email them, like, if they don't respond, that's fine. And if they do, it's not just random. So I think there's just the uncertainty of, like, I'm just not that confident with the sales stuff, which again is ironic because what I talk about is listening and just asking questions, and that's all I really, not that that's all I need to do. So I think once I start doing that and start getting responses, the only way through it is by taking action on it. So yeah, that's the one that I've been totally procrastinating and not dealing with. And that's the one that's actually going to get me sales.
That's usually how it is.
Yeah. So
but at a certain point, Aaron, you want to separate the pillars, like developing the habit of pillar execution, from actually building your business, as weird as that sounds. Like even if you're questioning, are these good emails, do them anyway.
Right.
Just, you need that. You got to close that loop, and you got to close it week after week after week, because look, and I can talk about myself, but I'd rather talk about clients of mine that I work with personally, one-on-one. And when you wind up on this side of the fence, and by the way, I wasn't born on this side of the fence. I mean, in no way do I think of myself as a disciplined person. Do I think of whatever? The reason I developed the pillar system was for myself. I never planned on coaching or consulting on it at all. It didn't even have a name back then. It was after years and years, what I finally figured out worked for me, because I was a freaking mess, right?
Yeah.
But once you're on this side of the fence, you'll never go back. You can't. When you control your mornings, when you own your mornings, and you just focus on a few things, and you plan your days, and you just kind of are very slow, methodical, but intentional is probably the best word about things. Very intentional. You take time to think about what you're going to do, not just go, go, go. You will never go back. You can't undo it, right? You just can't undo it. And so for me, when I look at someone like you, yes, I want you to build your business, but this thing will take you further than that. It doesn't matter what business or the form of your business, if that makes sense. And so, hit these pillars regardless, right? Hit them regardless. I'd rather you send out 10 crappy emails for now. Okay. Now, down the road, Aaron, you can then put criteria around those emails, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Meaning you're not just allowed to send 10 and 3, but you actually have to put criteria. Like they have to be from a certain list or a certain kind of person or a certain caliber, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about, and again, please be honest, do you see blocking the 4-hour things? Do you see that as realistic for you?
Yeah. I mean, not to get too specific, but on Mondays I go to yoga at 9:30, so I can either, honestly, on Mondays I could probably get up and do it either before or just shift it to like the block after, from 11 till 2 I work on my pillars.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
fine.
because I think it's interesting too. Like now yoga on Mondays and Wednesdays, it's like on the calendar because it just does so much for me, like mentally and physically. And it's interesting. Like I've committed to that, and I see how important it is. So yes, I think doing doing the Monday and Tuesday block, and I love what you said is like when I have the travel or like if there's something else. Well, there won't be anything else if I block it off, but in the cases where something has to happen, then yeah, rescheduling it I think will be really helpful.
But
Yeah.
not rescheduling it for the afternoon.
No, because by the afternoon,
It won't work. It has to be the first thing you do mentally.
Okay.
Yeah, it just has to be. You're not going to go, okay, from 2 to 5 I'm going to do this stuff.
No.
I'm not saying you can't get things done from 2 to 5. I'm just saying it's not something you want to count on.
Okay.
Right? It's not something you want to count on. And the other thing about pillars, and again, I know you read the book, but you don't remember everything. Start your weeks on Saturday and end them on Friday. Okay.
Okay.
Start your weeks on Saturday, end them on Friday. And the reason I say that, I don't know if you work on the weekends or not. You like to work, don't like to work, whatever. But if you're gonna work on the weekends, okay, especially if you're starting a new business, you might feel the pressure to work on whatever it is. You want working on the weekends to be a positive thing, not a negative thing. Positive in that you're getting ahead for the week, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to spend time on Sunday night learning about marketing or something, right? That counts for the week ahead as opposed to, oh, it's Friday, I didn't hit my pillars. Now I have to work on the weekend to hit them, because not only will you probably not even do it, but if you do it, it'll be a negative experience.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so, what about have you actually sat down to hit your pillars? And again, I'm trying to pull things from you, but if they're not there, don't just say yes. Okay. But just, my experience working with a lot of people, I see some patterns, right? Do you ever sit down, at least in the last 5 or 6 weeks, to start working on your pillars and you just don't want to? And so you wind up figuring out something else to do. You check your email, you do whatever. You distract yourself, or are you pretty good at getting started?
I feel like it's interesting. Lately, I've been more like sit down, keep my butt in the chair, and work through the resistance to want to like get up and mess around. So I think for me, which I thought this is the question I thought you were going to ask, was more like I haven't blocked off the time. So I've been like, okay, I'm going to work on this pillar now. And now I'm going to work on this pillar like some other day. So I can see how that hasn't been like how it's going to just be more focused to just have the blocks of time. But yeah, I think sometimes, and I think it goes back to like, okay, what am I doing? Or I know I get stuck with not so much like, well, maybe distractions, but also just, all right, well, what am I going to say? And how do I know what I'm going to say? And then I'm like, well, what exactly am I doing? So I think now, like I was saying earlier, now I'm more clear on what it is I'm going to say, and I'm also like, just get it out there. To your point, just do it, not just to do
Mhm.
it, but to do it. You know?
Yeah, and yeah, and you're talking about like what do I say on prospecting emails? What do I say when I'm making my videos? Like what should I talk about? Um, which is why you need mental energy, right? At that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you should also, and again, I don't know if you're like this. I come up with ideas all the time when I'm not working on stuff.
Oh yeah.
In the shower, on an airplane, reading something, look at all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that would make for a good piece of content, or that would, you know what I mean? Does that happen to you? Like, do you get a lot of creativity when just whatever and you just like write it down somewhere or?
Yeah, I have a specific like bullet type journal that I use for my ideas. So like my content journal. So I always am constantly, yeah,
Okay. So
having
when you
ideas.
go to publish your video, because that's what I would call, like I call in the book, I called that a reference document, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could, because that's a source of, I don't want to say inspiration, but inspiration, right?
Yeah.
You're not always going to be able to think of content or things to say when you're sitting there ready to do it.
No, I actually like feel like I do worse when I sit down and I like it doesn't I that doesn't necessarily work for me. So I've learned now like I'll grab Steve, take him for a walk, and the ideas start to generate when I'm on the walk, and then I'll come back and do
Right.
that. And that's why I've been trying to get the exercise like doing the exercising first thing too, because A, it's done, and I find the ideas start coming better after I've been done a little physical activity. So yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I call that cap strategy changing your mood.
Right, right,
It
right.
it frickin' works. Okay, so you feel like, I don't want to. This doesn't have to go longer than it needs to. You feel like you have the right pillars right now.
Yep, I'm looking them over. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I, yes.
You understand modifying them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care if you're traveling 4 days in a week or whatever it is. Just modify them and hit the modified ones.
Yep,
Okay. The time blocks we're clear with, and I would literally do those through 2020.
yep. I love that. Mm-hmm.
Like done. My calendar from 7 to 10 through forever is done. It's blocked, right? You know. Um, what were some of the other things we talked about? So you're gonna do the blocking. I'm gonna send you the stuff on planning your day, planning your week. I think that'll help you, especially the planning your day part, but planning your week as well.
Okay.
And I think that's everything. Do you have any questions on the marketing side of things? Just like what you've been reading about, or like
I
do
mean,
you feel like you have enough stuff to look through?
yeah. I mean, I think, and yes, probably, in some of the stuff, it, I mean, this is probably another conversation that I would probably need to have a drink over because it's so much of the like my this one awesome woman I follow, she calls it like the bro marketing, of like the scarcity and like sign up for this and like here's my 75-point email funnel, and I'm like, oh my god, like part of me is like, is this totally necessary? But the other part is I think I've just been paying attention, like whose newsletters do I sign up for? Like, what is there? Like,
Well,
what is it that they're doing that resonates with me? So it's the balance of like,
we'll see. It
uh,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what resonates with you.
I know it matters what resonates with the people that are going to buy from me.
Yeah. So when you get clear on who those people are, which it sounds like you did a little bit at that conference,
Yeah,
that's who you need to create your marketing around.
right.
Something that seems cheesy to you might not seem cheesy to them.
I know, and that's what I need to get over because
And you have to and you have to understand their incentives, right? Because their incentives are different than yours. And again, without going into a whole marketing thing, that's why I want you spending 90 minutes a week, because 90 minutes a week isn't just quick ideas like, oh, you should do this and that. It's understanding,
yeah,
marketing is psychology,
totally.
copywriting, all that kind of stuff. Like I have 2 books I'm reading right now. Got Your Attention by Sam Horn, about getting people's attention, which is like the hardest thing in the world, and keeping it. And then I have like a copywriting book. I'm a huge fan of direct response copywriting. So I have a breakthrough copywriting book. And I'm constantly look, here's the reality, and we'll end the recorded part on this. And
Okay.
I might even edit this part out, who knows, but you will be more successful being a great marketer than being great at whatever it is you deliver. Right?
Yeah.
For the first few years that you're in business. Now, eventually, if you're so good that, people can't ignore you, okay, that's great. But here's the problem. Even when you're that way, people still need to find out about you. Right. And so if you're, again, and this is just marketing, but it depends on the niche you choose too, because like for me, I have something coming up and I'm trying to find a niche for it. If your niche that you go after, if they're what I call an isolated niche, meaning they don't talk to each other, like you have HR directors as one, and I don't know if they still are one of your targets or not, but I don't think word spreads around the HR director community very quickly, right?
Right.
HR directors don't all know each other. They don't all have worked at the same company in the past or run across each other all the time, or it's probably not a very viral community, right? I could be
Right.
wrong. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas one of the industries I work in, it's a small, everybody knows everybody. So that makes word of mouth and referrals a lot easier, right? So if you can choose an industry like that. So let me stop the recording here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Simplify Your Strategy, Magnify Your Results. If you know someone you think could benefit from this episode, be their hero and share it with them. If you'd like a free copy of my book or you want to be considered as a guest on a future episode, head on over to productivitygiant.com. Have a great day and thanks again.